silly.
Eat your vegetables.
You didn't sign
My
it.
grandfather always said.
No, I didn't.
Did I? Okay.
Okay. We're ready to begin the meeting, so I call it to order at
5:03.
5:03. And I need a motion to consider the proposed agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is fine. And now we have the consideration of minutes, and there are a number.
Yeah.
So just to refresh everybody's minds, there are a special meeting on the 22nd, I'm going back. Amended meetings on the 14th. There's a small amendment on the 14th, Tracy, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what was it?
I had forgotten to put that, the motion to approve the agenda in it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, that's
And
what
one I
belongs in
can't
there.
vote on, cause I wasn't here. Oh, okay.
Okay. And then the meeting that started all this, I guess, February 4th. So please give me a motion to consider and approve those.
hang on one second, did you say you weren't here on January 11th?
One of them I wasn't here for. The last, special meeting, the last meeting.
Yeah, that was the.
Okay, so
Okay.
you were, because I have you as motioning to approve the agenda, and I was, so that was gonna,
It would have been the 22nd, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
so the
okay.
11th you were here.
All right.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of the 4th, the 22nd, and the 14th.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Have to do it this way, I guess.
You
We
can
have
vote
to
yeah.
note that, Bob Kern was not here for the February 22nd meeting. So he's not part of the approval of the minutes for that meeting.
He can approve.
Well, you can if you read the minutes.
Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
can
can
select
read
them.
No,
Oh, I did read the minutes.
sorry, Bob.
You may not
As long as you
approve,
read it.
but you can certainly.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Correspondence?
None.
All right. Mr. Treasurer? Treasurer's report?
Okay, so cash balance in the People's United Bank checking account as of February 28th, 2019 was $365,582.85. Revenues for the month of February 2019 include interest earnings of $100.15. Annual compliance fees of $300, late pilot fees of $5,238.50, and completed project fees for island companies in the amount of $86,483.47. The expenses paid for the month of February 2019 totaled $17,661.46. A motion to approve?
Oh, you made the motion?
Yeah.
Second?
A second?
All right, so, any discussion? Questions? I have a few, whenever anybody else is finished. Everybody else is finished, okay, hearing none. Under aging summary,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are aging over 30 days, are they now,
Yeah, actually, they were, the city cider and the town of Riverhead are both paid,
Okay.
and Woolworth, I have to double check.
all right. Not sure, it's just 3, okay. And then on the next page, accounts payable. Next, state and local retirement system,
This
that
is
has a
accrual.
drag on it before it's paid,
accrual.
right?
Mhm, it's
Yeah,
accrual.
okay. That's all I have. So all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, the financial report is approved. And we're on to the committee reports, and we only have one, and it's in the hands of Lori Pipchinsky. Lori, give us the governance report in the last meeting.
Okay, so the governance committee met on February 26th. The members reviewed the policies and reports of the agencies, which we do every year, including web posting of project synopsis procedures. There were no revisions that were recommended by the committee. And the committee voted unanimously to recommend to the board that the policies be reauthorized with no changes at this time. So we'll do that at the next meeting, when we get the resolution put together. A review of the annual board evaluations showed no areas of concern, so there were no actions required. The board members discussed the importance of limiting monthly meeting discussions to agenda items. We just want to make sure that we are keeping to the agenda that we are sharing with the board members prior to the meeting, so that they are aware and expect what we are going to be discussing. The agency goals were reviewed and no changes were recommended at this time. We also discussed the need for an administrative fee to offset agency expenses necessitated by any potential recapture actions in the future. We haven't had any, we don't expect any, but we realize that we do not have a policy in place currently to provide for those administrative fees to offset those costs. So we recommended, it was a recommendation from the committee to the board that a 10% total recapture amount be charged as an administrative fee, and that'll be another resolution that we'll be presenting for your consideration at the next board meeting.
To add to the schedule of fees.
Right. The committee also discussed the requirement for a sexual harassment policy, which is a requirement by New York State. And given the small size of our agency staff and the number of board members, the agency council and the executive director will review the current town policy to see if we can use that as a model. And we'll explore options for naming individuals in the policy to whom complaints can be filed. And then finally, the committee discussed their desire to provide professional development opportunities for the board members, focused on increasing the agency's effectiveness and impact in generating tax revenue and community benefits for the town. And the chair and the executive director will meet to develop specifics and to identify an appropriate facilitator and presenters for that event, which we're hoping to have in March or April. And that's it.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay. On to old business? No old business? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In fact, it's not even on here. It's the wrong one, okay. There's what I thought. New business. We have a consideration of the Browning refinance resolution, 1719.
If I could
Please.
just take a moment.
Yeah.
Been working with the attorneys for Browning Hotel. Going back to 2007, the board approved the original Hilton Hotel at that site. In 2015, the Marriott was added. It's somewhat a unique property in that both facilities are on the same tax map. So when one is financed, it's almost necessary that the other be financed, just for keeping everything straight. So Mr. Browning is refinancing those two facilities, and there was a slight change in the resolution. The overall amount of the loans remains the same from the earlier resolution to this resolution, but the distribution between the two facilities changes slightly to 16 for the Hilton and 19 million for the Marriott. I did want to take a moment to explain the arcane area of mortgage recording tax. And interesting that whenever you dig into these things, you learn more each time. So the board gave a mortgage recording tax exemption in '07 on an initial mortgage. When it was refinanced in '16, the Browning organization brought a case before the New York State Tax Commissioner on the issue of whether the increase relative to the MTA tax now being not exempt applied to this older project, and they prevailed. And so they convinced the tax commissioner that there is a grandfather clause, if you will, for older projects. And there hadn't been a ruling that I'm aware of up to that point, so we now know that older projects may cite this as a precedent for the continuation of those older tax exemptions. So we recite in the resolution that these mortgages are free of tax, and that is proper because you're not trying to now impose a tax. But as I was talking with Tracy today, I realized that it's kind of confusing from an accounting standpoint. Are they realizing a new tax benefit each time, or are we merely memorializing the fact that the old tax benefit is still in place and continues? In one case, you'd see it as multiple exemptions. In the other case, it's I have an exemption which I carry forward. So I think as far as our view of these applications where it's refinancing, and based on this decision by the tax commissioner, it appears that it's fair to say that the old exemption is continued to the new filing of the mortgage, particularly in this case where they're assigning the mortgages and assuming them. So in a traditional mortgage world, if you pay a mortgage tax on your home and that mortgage is assumed by a new lender, you would not pay a new tax. In the case of our projects, no original tax is paid, so conservative attorneys like myself have taken the view that you can't say in an affidavit that the tax was paid and so I don't have to pay it again. So we would always fill out a new exemption. But it appears that it is proper to cite the old exemption and say that that exemption continues. So that's primarily what will happen with the paperwork here, is there'll be an affidavit that the old mortgage tax exemptions continue, and there'll be a small gap mortgage which reflects the difference between what was paid down and the refinance amount, which will have the separate affidavit. So I don't know if that's clear.
Let me try this. So the differential, if I heard you correctly, there's an additional piece now that wasn't around.
It was around, but the mortgages have been paid down.
All right.
So it was there, now it isn't there, it's coming back.
So is the refi going to expand the mortgage?
That's my point.
These mortgages are less than the original mortgages, but more than the paid down amount. And
Yes, because I read that they were gonna take some money out, is that right?
that's correct, because Mr. Browning had
Okay.
financed a large portion of the second hotel with his funds from another source.
And so our original authorization, the amount of mortgage tax that was exempted is not being eclipsed under this transaction.
Two parts to that question. The project total for the $16 million mortgage, you approved up to $18 million.
Okay.
So we're not up to that threshold. And the $19 million mortgage, the project total was $26 million.
Okay.
So they're well within
Right.
the project allocations,
Okay.
if that answers
Right.
that question.
It does.
Good.
From the committee's perspective, from the board's perspective,
I'm sorry?
from the board's perspective, but I guess the second question that might be on people's minds is the mortgage total, the new mortgage total, going to exceed the original mortgage total when they refinance? They're just gonna roll this over with a new lender, right? He's not taking out enough money that would expand the mortgages?
No.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not from me.
Okay.
Does that mean, Dick,
No, one's going.
Better rate.
Better rate.
does that mean, what your earliest statement, does that mean that they cross-collateralize? In other words, if they're, both buildings are on the same property, so one provides security for the other as well, so to speak?
No.
No?
There's a,
That's interesting.
yes, it's an interesting question. There are two ground leases, and the leasehold estate is mortgaged.
Okay.
The fee estate is also mortgaged, but the collateral of each stands separate. And it's,
Even though they're in the same piece of land?
even though they're on the same piece of land. And that's why it really has to be one lender that has the appetite to
Yeah, it has to
understand
be.
the risks,
It has
because
to be.
otherwise, they,
There'll be a border war.
right, and the border, so to speak, is not, the amenities of parking and access, they're all controlled by complicated easements.
Yeah.
But in a practical way, you can't control that a car from Hotel A doesn't park in the area of Hotel B.
We didn't make a motion on this, did we?
Thanks.
All right. I'll entertain a motion on resolution 1719. Somebody give me a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that one's approved.
Thank you, Dick, that was very well presented.
Yes, thank you.
I
That's
actually understood what you were saying.
For now. No, I don't mean you. I may lose it later on, but I got the hang of it anyway. Okay, continuing under new business. We have a presentation from one of our former members, now in a role as Community Development Director of the town of Riverhead, Dawn Thomas.
Hello,
So come on up and tell us what you're gonna tell us.
thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure.
So pass around that's the area in question, and then this. I'm just gonna pass these around. So, one of the things we've been working on, with the town board to further economic development are some grants for strategic planning. And the reason we think those are important is because they allow us to take more general plans, like the comprehensive plan or the BOA, and then get more pointed on what a professional might recommend for a particular area, so whether it be downtown or EPCAL, and the strategic planning, then we can leverage that strategic plan to get funding. So for instance, if a strategic plan gives us a layout for a particular type of building or particular uses, we can take that and ask for more funding from other sources, because we now have support that says that that works, or could work. So, the state of New York is kind enough to give us an opportunity each year to apply for, strategic planning grants through the consolidated funding application, and, in the last 2 years, we applied twice and we were awarded twice. This particular, last year, 2018, we applied for a strategic planning grant for a transportation-oriented development at the railroad station. And the reason we did that was partly because we think it's a good idea, and the other reason is because we were sort of encouraged to do that by Empire State Development when we applied for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative last year, so.
Just for the public's sake, trans-orientated development is mixed-use residential and commercial use, designed to maximize public transportation and encourage transit ridership. It's basically it in a nutshell.
So we, when we applied for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, that's a $10 million funding opportunity that came the last 3 years through the state of New York, and we were finalists in the first round. We were not finalists in the second round when we applied with Southampton Town, which I did think was a great idea. And we were finalists top 5 last year on our own. So we were pretty close to getting that funding, and we sort of read the board's feelings on it and thought this would be a good other application to make. So we made this application, and the way the strategic planning funding works is that it's a 50% match up to $100,000. So we kind of scoured our resources and found that we had about $37,500 that we could use for a match, so we worked with Nelson Pope and Voorhees, who did our BOA study, which included a traffic and transportation-oriented development analysis. So we called them, and they gave us a proposal for $75,000 to do a strategic plan for that railroad property. And so the property that the town owns is that parking lot that's on the map. And there's 327 spaces in there,
It's just the parking
just the
lot.
parking lot, and we have,
This area here.
in the 327 spaces, we did years back some condemnation work and acquired those spaces, and part of the reason was to provide parking for the courts that are there, and there's a longer, more complicated history to that, but currently the town owns this property, and as you all work in public-private partnership, we felt that it might be a good thing to try to leverage that property with a private developer to get more out of it for the town and rehabilitate this very, very blighted area. So, we were awarded the grant, but instead of the match, instead of the 50-50 match for 75, they awarded us 25,000. So we are short $12,500, which it leads me to my visit to you. So we're trying to acquire the funding to move forward with this plan. We have, April 13th, we have to return the incentive proposal, which is the agreement that the state gives us, and we're required to sign, the supervisor would be required to sign it. And then we would move forward with the study, but right now, we don't have the 12,500. I was looking to see if you would be willing to fund a part of that, or, you know, if you were willing, the whole 12,500 in that, it might, you know, generate some more economic development in this area. Perhaps we could get some leveled parking there, or, and offices. I mean, one of the things that Tracy and I have talked about would be even the courts over there, or town hall over there, and then a developer could build that building to suit that municipal purpose, and then know that they would have the rent coming in to cover whatever debt they might incur as a result of their investment. So, and it is in the opportunity zone, so those are other good things. It's in an urban renewal area. It's been studied since '93. For urban renewal, clearly, we haven't been wildly successful in getting that done, but we're still working on it, so that's my pitch.
Wow, and I understood all of that too, wow.
So the product of the.
When there's all kinds of, no batter going around, it's amazing.
Yeah, love it.
So the
Well, we-
product of the investment is the plan, the strategic plan on how to use this property, how best to use it,
Correct.
in a way that sets you up for potentially more investment from the state to support whatever the
Yes.
planning document comes up
Or
with.
even a private developer, so maybe we could generate an RFP and have a developer come in and say, okay, well, the study says these are the things you ought to
Things,
build
right.
here. We would like to invest in this property, so the town can leverage its property by, you know, letting them develop on it by either long-term lease or, some other, you know, form of,
We talked a little bit about
Owner
expanding
control.
that study area.
Yeah, we did talk about that. I'm a little concerned about that, and
Okay.
I'm a little concerned about it because, you know, Empire State Development's like busy, and I'm fearful of
You
bothering
know what you've got.
them, yeah, with expanding the study, because I know I'd have to go back to them, and so I'm very nervous about making sure this moves forward in a way that's kind of simple and easy, so that they review it and look at us like they're, you know,
And what I didn't ask, but I'm sure is.
team players.
Is enough, but would this area and the results of this plan be enough to support rezoning of adjacent area if necessary to support the project, do you
Well, for
think?
sure, it could be support to rezone this, and
Right.
as it currently stands, this is DC 3, downtown 3, it does not allow residences. I think that might be,
Townhouses, right, only?
yeah, I think it might be short-sighted, I think it might be a good location for some residences. I don't know, though, and that's why we're looking to get some professional advice on it. And, so I could talk to the consultant, perhaps they could, you know, work the study so that it included some of this, I don't know. I don't wanna change this proposal at
Yeah,
all.
you don't wanna lose
Cause
what
it
you
was the
have.
basis of the grant, and when
Yeah.
you're applying
Right.
for these grants, they're competitive, so they have a certain amount of funding, and you go and make your pitch and they give it to you, then if, certainly they're not gonna look for us to be changing that after the fact, because we were competing with other people, and they didn't get a chance to change their plan either, so, just looking to kinda like keep it tight.
This would also help support the next DRI round.
For sure. I mean, certainly the fact that we're, working and investing more money in collaboratively in, getting more economic development feasibility kind of studies would be another indication to the state that we are serious about redevelopment. We're willing to put our money where our mouth is and really kind of look at these kind of things. And just, it's significant because the last 3 rounds, excuse me, of the DRI that were awarded right around train station type developments.
TOD.
So that's my, antenna. It wasn't too tough for me to figure out, maybe we ought to really think about this moving forward. So that's how we did, and then we kind of got cut short, and, 12,500 isn't a lot for some municipalities, but for Riverhead, it is serious.
Let me ask you this question to make sure I understand. You leave it as it is, I understand what you're saying, and hopefully it flies through there and they say, okay, Riverhead, you got it. Can we then come up with ideas, or maybe come up with ideas that it could also be used for, that don't fit into your original request, that grant?
Well, I think, if you read the scope of the study, it kind of gives a pretty broad description of what they're gonna be looking at. So certainly, they're gonna be looking for our ideas. We're boots on the ground. They've done a lot of work in Riverhead. They did the BOA, they did this, part of that BOA was traffic, transportation-oriented development work. They're great. I like
mean,
them.
I have had the privilege of reading the BOA. Yes, I have.
Really?
With my downtown revitalization
You went-
hat. I have to say, I've not read the entire
Okay,
creative placemaking study yet. That's another 200 pages.
That's
but yeah,
online now,
That
you know.
intrigues me, but I haven't gotten that far. But you might want to just have a look at that. I think that BOA is online under
It
the
is.
CDA,
It's
if
on
I'm
our
not mistaken.
webpage, yeah.
And it's actually quite a substantial, very substantial report, actually. It's incredibly informative about what's going on in town and around town. And it's dated late 2016, so it's quite current. I mean, I don't think too much has shifted in,
And it's an original from 2016?
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, that's not to say that there isn't some prior study regurgitation in some of these reports, but nevertheless, I mean.
All right, well,
yeah.
okay, it's
In
fairly
fact,
new.
you took part, because they did a presentation and a community, information center and information gathering at the theater. And, the East End Arts Council was present, and they had the big boards up,
Yes.
and they were asking for information.
They were doing-
That's what the BOA, that was part of the BOA.
The public input charts,
That's
and
Yeah.
a lot of that work is really useful for us moving forward to get these additional grants. And so that's one of the things, because they're recommending that in there,
Yeah.
this type of thing, so we picked it out of there also. So we're trying to tie everything together and show that we are thinking hard about what we wanna do and being serious about funding it. And that we got with the grant. Chris Kempner was
Yeah.
successful in getting a grant for the BOA. Was $500,000,
Yeah,
I
that
think,
was
or
a big study.
something around
Yeah.
there. Beautiful work, really useful to us in everything we're doing. I'm in that thing every day, so
And
it's
that's the
great.
brownfields?
Brownfields
Brownfield
opportunity
opportunity,
area.
yeah.
Okay.
They actually reach across the tracks too, in fact, in their study.
I actually have the hard copy if you want it.
Yes,
It's better
yep.
online 'cause
Online.
it's
They
Yeah.
had recommendations from
That
the
was one of my
Railroad
marks.
Museum.
Okay,
and
just-
all-
Vistas
yeah.
and all that, they had some.
Is this
Something.
stuff to the right, is that Ike's stuff
It's
there?
sleepy
Yes.
reading.
Yeah,
Yes, well, except for
Yeah.
one.
Or it sounds like it's extremely important before making a decision, at least for me, to digest as best I can
for sure.
this BOA.
Well, I don't know if you
So-
have to digest the whole thing for
Well, that
purposes
was
of Dawn's request.
part of my
but,
question
yeah.
is, lead me to what I should be reading that's
I could-
appropriate
Okay, I'll do
to
that.
this
I'll do
request.
that. I've got a friend with an Adobe software that can slice out the pages and re-PDF them in
You
that.
can
so
give us a template?
Yeah.
Board meets
When-
again April 1st, is that?
Negative. And part of my report is, unfortunately, we will be meeting on March 25th.
I have a question.
Ordinance again on
Oh,
March 25th.
That's
Is that,
perfectly
is
fair.
that enough time for, if the
Yeah,
board
that would-
considers it between now and
that
then?
would work
So we could
perfectly,
write
yep.
write
Okay.
And the other thing too is we did, in 2017, we did a same grant for a strategic parking plan for downtown. So we finally have the draft of that plan, and that plan is also sort of recommending this type of thing in terms of long-term parking, to address long-term parking issues, perhaps stacked parking here. So we're trying to really tie everything together in a.
As well as draw downtown.
Yeah, and if you could have people here,
Connected, you know,
yes,
making
exactly.
the connections.
Yeah,
so-
maybe some retail here to serve the courts
Yes.
or things like that. All of that could be worked into it.
Parking,
I have a
parking
question.
structure.
Parking
Yeah,
is
potentially
extreme,
parking
yeah.
structure,
Oh, yeah.
maybe offices, maybe apartments, who knows what they
50 square.
recommend.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
They had the right idea, just not the wrong money.
yeah, exactly.
Don, I have a question. The, the land that is next, just west of the court, so across the street,
Yes.
right? Well, is that the it's the county?
Suffolk County owns that.
Okay,
yes.
so I'm just gonna, suppose that, housing was built on the property that the town owns. Do you think that would put pressure on the county to put a parking garage in, since this lot is full Monday through Friday? Both
County-
lots?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a deeper
just
discussion
curious.
about parking, and it would be great if we could leverage the county to do anything for us. I'm
I don't
happy
think
about that,
that
but
they would be opposed to capturing property for some form of development if the town went to them and said, you know, we've got this and, your property is adjacent. We also have a property down here, the town owns parking here,
other
the county
side.
owns parking here, we own parking here. You know, if there was something, a proposal, I don't think that they wouldn't be open to sitting down and talking about it.
yeah, I think we have an obligation, I don't know if I wanna call it a legal obligation, but there were long-term discussions about providing 600 parking
Parking
stalls
spaces,
to the counties to serve the parking, to serve the jurors and the court employees. So we worked hard to scramble, including this piece and some others, to get that parking together for them. And so we really that will need to be maintained in some way
Mhm.
and maybe
Not
increased.
enhanced.
That's free parking is the obligation.
It has to be free parking.
That's
Which
right.
I found difficult because, you know, I don't think Islip Town paid for the parking for Suffolk County courts in Islip. So Riverhead, you know, residents, but we did get the courts, they said they would not build the courts if we did not build that parking, so we built the parking and we got the courts, and they're a very important part of our downtown.
Well,
That's businesses for
we didn't know it would take them 20 years to build the courts either.
So
Yeah,
so
but you
the-
know, that's like boxing with God.
So essentially, there's 4 lots.
Which I
There's,
would never do.
there's surrounded, this is one to the east as well, right?
There is,
That's that lot.
This
one.
is the county owned also, that used to be the Cornell.
Okay, so the county owns that, and then we own on both sides. on
we
the
own a little bit over
south.
here, and then there's a little one over here, and then the county, it's kind of
There's
an
little
odd,
pocket parking
yeah.
all over
yeah.
I mean,
ridiculous areas that count
my
for this.
second question is, and I know you came to us for the money, and I think it's great, because I think it takes, you know, downtown's gonna expand somewhere, and so much focus is on Main Street, which is great for now, for tomorrow, you know, but
You gotta move.
20 years down, you know, what are you thinking about? You know, you don't develop,
Well, actually, it's critical to downtown.
yeah,
too.
it's absolutely, it is, and I mean,
Maybe we could get more train service if we had more stuff going on here too, so that's another help.
yeah, I mean, you
thing.
need, right, so.
Or shuttle buses or something. Something
So,
more consistent.
so my second question is, who else is in a position to give money to this project?
We're digging, we've been thinking,
No,
and
that's-
actually I
I-
thought
I
about
don't
it
know, you
more.
know.
Innocent
Yeah.
question. Dick, are we authorized to do this?
Yes.
We are, okay, just,
So we could,
We can do a lot of things if we had.
you know, I just don't know.
with the strategic
Financial
plan, we would
wherewithal.
have a better idea of what the components of the development might be, so whether it be residential, retail, so I think we'd get a good, then we might have a developer who would be interested based on whatever their expertise is.
So for the people doing the strategic plan, are they pivotal in terms of their exposure to the state? Is that why we're using them? So why are we using them?
Because they did the BOA study, and they're very familiar with Riverhead. They did, part of the BOA study was a transportation-oriented development, component. So we've thought it would be most expeditious and financially,
Advantageous.
to use them.
I'm fine, well,
And they've been doing work for the town for many, many, many
Many
years.
years.
Riverside
And,
as
and
well.
along,
So
along with a lot of
more
other
efficient.
Long Island towns.
Done well in Riverside.
Well, from what I've heard here, this is, this still needs to be a parking lot.
We need parking, yeah.
It has to,
Where else, where else, if we said, no, we wanna do this, this, and this, maybe a little parking, but we'd rather not, because this is really valuable, it's tied close to downtown. Well, where do you get the parking then?
it would,
Structured parking.
I think, well, what I anticipate you're trying to say is that basically, if it's gonna be a public-private partnership type project at the end of the day, based upon, shall we say, the study and further grants to support it, what'll happen is, you're going to get a private developer come in, and he's gonna have a partner with him, and it's gonna be somebody from the town. And then the town will have some percentage ownership in it related to the contribution of the land to the construction of the entire facility, whatever it might contain. So at the end of the day, it becomes a joint venture, and the parking that's required would remain in there. I mean, for instance, you could do it retail ground level, parking one layer up, or 2 layers up, and then something, offices or residential above that. So it could be quite an interesting mix, but,
Yeah. So retail scares me, I don't know, I mean, because commercial doesn't, but.
We're not defining definitive.
No, I understand, but here's my other question is this. Out of all these, do we know what the aggregate is of the parking spaces with everything available? We said there's 600,
yeah.
but how many are in these 4
so
lots?
this is 327.
Okay,
Overall
road.
downtown, we have 11 and change, including, all the downtown lots. We just.
1,100?
Mm-hmm.
So that satisfies the court's need?
Well, they wanted it within walking
That's what I
distance of the
thought.
court, so there's a Third Street lot that we own off Roanoke Avenue and the corner of
Mhm.
Third Street and Roanoke, that's town
Right.
parking.
There's some lease space too, right?
There's
We
some
Small
lease
lot on
back
Lincoln
behind.
Street, they
Right.
really got them
It's
dispersed all over
a real
the place.
patchwork of parking that we put together
So
that.
where I'm going is how much of this, because this piece is a good piece, the town owns it,
Yeah.
okay? And this is a good piece, we need housing. So I'm just wondering,
That may be one of them.
Mhm.
the exact amount of spaces, so that tells me how much we can build here, because my big concern about a parking garage is people think, 2 levels basically covers what's on the ground, because it's infrastructure. So once you start to get to 3 and 4, you start to add to the parking that was on the ground.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm coming from in this.
So we thought there was some,
That's not a bad thing, is it?
yeah, I mean.
No, it's
So the
not, I'm
building-
just wanna make sure that there's, you can build there.
The building heights in that area are pretty high, so we thought also it wouldn't be a bad
Port
idea.
itself is huge.
60 feet or something, so it wouldn't be a bad place to recommend higher,
Mhm.
higher,
We'd have to
building
change
height.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked, and I've shown you some of the parking garages, they're very interesting looking now. They have some retail on the first floor, some parking, they're skinned very nicely, they look very,
They're artistic.
they look very residential, they're,
And next to the
make 'em
station
anything-
is
No
perfect.
question,
Yeah,
no
Yeah.
question. But again, retail, we have 16 vacant retail shops on Main Street, and everybody talks about bringing more retail into Main
Right,
Street.
the face of
So-
retail is definitely changing.
It's over.
It's changing,
Not
it's changing.
But I know I don't have a vote, but I can tell you, I can't think of a more proactive way between community development and economic development than this discussion. It's a proactive way, I like it,
Absolutely.
I just think it's
we're a good team.
it's a good conversation.
I'm so glad, because I'm so glad, because we just had this group, and one of the things that we're looking at is get the focus off of Main Street, and we were looking
Yeah.
over here, so I
Well,
love this.
Our agency's been trying to do that too,
Yeah.
with some of the approvals
can
we
buy a
did
bunch
back
of
on
little
Second Street,
shuttle buses
trying to
out
there.
move things
Screw it.
back.
You run a shuttle bus
The fact the hospital took
from
over the
garage to
bank,
downtown.
you have another profession
No, I'll do it
that
myself.
has taken a huge piece of downtown, which is tremendous, and that opens up a whole nother layer of market, for us to move things back, which is great.
Did we have the opportunity, I know we bought land over by Chroma, to use that money to buy land on Second Street as opposed to the land on, I think it was Chroma?
Oh.
No, the present.
Actually, well, there is open spaces dealing with that now with the 12D money, the 12D5 money that we're looking to, we're looking to purchase property on Main Street. The town's looking to purchase property on Main Street.
Good.
It's for, not for development, but for undevelopment, to create public spaces.
You need that too.
Mm-hmm.
You can't,
Absolutely.
right, you
Critical.
you need public space
Yeah.
for everything you do. It's gonna, we all know that
Yeah.
people don't park in front of a store on Main Street anymore. They have to park and walk down. They're there for a purpose, whether it's a show or dinner or whatever. But so, they gotta get, most people, when you go to Padua or any other town, you park and you walk to wherever you gotta go.
That's right.
So, that whole dynamics of,
The convenience shopping is on 58.
convenience shopping is home on your computer.
That
This is the
too.
problem with 58.
So Dawn, let's say you get the money, state loves this, how easy is it to find a partner?
So we have the grant they've awarded us the grant for this study, we're just looking for the additional funding. So if we get the additional funding and we can move forward with this, with the strategic plan, Nelson Pope and Voorhees would do their work, give us a strategic plan. Last time it took about 8 months to get it. We would then look for in the meantime, we're always looking for new sources of funding, but we would be able to see if we're gonna do maybe an RFP, maybe they're recommending public-private partnership, and in what way they're recommending that, I wouldn't be able to guess, but, we'll move on it as fast as we possibly
And in
can.
the meantime, we meet with
Yeah,
developers
anybody
at
is-
least twice a month, new developers. I mean, we have one this week, showing them the area and saying, you know, this is the possibility, these are the possibilities here, and,
Mhm.
kind of putting them on the list for when we can push the red button.
Mhm.
So when does that downtown revitalization initiative process come up again?
Last year, the applications were due in the beginning of June.
Okay.
So we would have this, we would be able to say, we were awarded the grant, the study's underway, we won't have the results yet, I don't think. But, I think that would be enough to kinda,
Rivet's moving.
getting there.
Rivet's moving.
It's close,
You-
I
you-
feel like
you,
it's that close.
You
It's
need this
there.
money
You know,
by April something, did you say?
Yeah, April,
You
we
need
have to
Proof
respond
that you got it,
by April 13th, yeah.
13.
Yep.
All right,
So-
so, there's not a lot of time
I know,
between
that's,
now and then.
yes.
And, you have no other suitors that look like they're good for 5, 6, 7, whatever?
Um,
12,000.
12.5.
Without changing the scope of the study and
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
agreement,
without changing.
I don't have anybody I feel comfortable really asking. I had spoken to the owner of the bulk of this property, Richmond Realty, the Israels.
Yeah.
I can, Rich, but I'm a little, I think in order to.
You spoke to Ike or Richard?
Both.
Okay.
If I was to ask them to contribute, I feel like we would have to expand the scope of the study, and then I'd have to change the agreement, and I'm fearful of doing that.
Right, and that's a lot to ask for, right, they're gonna want a return on that.
And that's, right, exactly.
Yeah, I don't really want the,
I think the timing is the way where it's gonna be, it wouldn't work well. So other than the town board, we really are coming up short.
now, as you
Well, I
see
just donated
this,
for bagels, I can't donate
I didn't even donate it,
as you see this,
bagels,
from
$50 a
your
piece.
position with your community development hat on, just who's gonna be working with you? You don't
So-
have much of a staff, so you have to go out and grab people and
So
get them
this,
involved. So
whatever
what would you do,
whatever the
basically?
results of the study show, whatever the results of the strategic plan are, then Tracy and I would sit down, my staff would work together, look for grants that would facilitate this. I mean, the consultant has also got a good familiarity with funding sources. And then if there's an RFP, we would draft an RFP and look for a developer and then, look for money that way.
Well, I, for one, I don't think I stand alone. I'm extremely happy that you, with community development, and you with the IDA, are doing this. I feel much better about our future.
I agree.
We
When I
work
see you
really
two
well
work.
together. We always wanted to do this, so we're pretty psyched.
There you
Well,
go.
good.
Pretty psyched that we are, now, you know, in the position of being able to do it. I think we talk at least once a day, at
Yeah.
least.
So, see, Nick, I love this, by the way, I just know that parking garage can't be paid if we're saying we're supplying spaces, and that's,
Well, you'd be surprised how creative the developers can be.
You aren't kidding, and we can not
Yeah.
only satisfy the court requirement, but additional, and then all those little scattered parkings we got all over town could be redeveloped into something a little more
exactly,
sensible.
we could free those
Yeah,
lots.
it's all in the deal structuring too. I mean, you know, this is town-owned property, depending on how much they're willing to leverage, how much we can provide as the IDA. There are developers who will purchase other property in the town for other things in addition to the building. So, it's all about the
I
deal
get it.
making.
I get it, I mean, I
Yep.
get it.
So I will
Well,
leave,
let's get down to this, this discussion is, okay, supposing that we are inclined to do this, how do we work that out? In a-
I think I need to speak to our CFO. I know that we have
Our
money.
CFO, I'm not good at that. What's our
Oh,
CFO?
sorry,
Financial.
certified for, then Denise.
Oh, okay.
To see what her level of comfort is on an amount. I know that we have money put aside for marketing, which, could probably be better utilized for something like
This
this.
is marketing.
It's marketing, it's for all intents and purposes.
So, and then talk with Dick about the legalities of us. I know that we're allowed to do this, but, and drafting a resolution, and then, a comfort level of the board for an amount.
It's a direct expense, is basically what it is at the end of the day, right? Okay.
Well, is this okay for us to make a motion that we wanna proceed with this? We're not making a
I
decision.
don't think you need to make any motions
No.
today. I think all you need to do is, having heard the discussion and be open to further input from Tracy to the board, and I think we'll,
Take it
All
up
right.
on the 25th.
Are you okay with this, Jim?
Yeah,
You wanna
conceptually.
proceed, see what happens?
Yeah, we should pursue it,
Bob?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Lori?
Absolutely.
And certainly, absolutely from me, so let's go ahead.
all right, well, thank you so much for entertaining my
And we won't
request. I
Thank
really
you. Waiting any
appreciate
longer.
that.
Doing the work.
Thank you for
And,
taking, extra time to be with us tonight. I realize how
Anytime,
busy you
always.
are in that order.
Anything
Miss you.
for,
You can
anything.
come to every meeting.
You're serving cocktails, I'm happy to join you.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you, have a great night.
Bye.
Good night.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
Can't find a little money to squeeze out of the town?
Yeah, we take it back out of that motherfucker we spent.
Okay.
Well, this could be a very, positive thing for, in my opinion, the Riverhead IDA, because, to my knowledge, we've never really done anything like this to date.
I can't say that. You would
Well,
probably have
I'm
more
gonna go back 8 or
institutional
9
knowledge
years.
than me.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Pretty new.
No, and you get,
This,
I
this
can't
sounds
imagine.
like a potentially good way to start if we decide to do this.
Perfect partnership.
It is a good partnership.
Any further thoughts? Okay. Do your thing. If you need any help, you can come to me. I don't know if I can help you, but I'll
Okay,
do my best, and I know the other board members will as well.
okay.
Good.
Great.
All right, Executive Director.
So,
report.
some more good news. I think all of you might be aware at this point that the agency is being honored for, Top Smart Growth Award by the Long Island Business News. Their Real Estate Architecture and Engineering, awards in collaboration with Georgia Green for their Riverhead Apartments downtown. That is March 26th at Crest Hollow in Woodbury.
Is that Eric's group?
Is Dave Gallo, the,
It's Long
Oh, I
Island
know
oh,
Dave-
no,
Business.
no, 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 that's Vision Long
Vision-
Island.
okay.
That's a different
Yeah.
awards.
Okay.
That's what I thought too,
yeah.
at first.
This is, they say about 400 people attend the event, and, I have spoken with, Georgia Green representatives, they're gonna draft some, we have to submit sort of a bio. So they're gonna draft something up, send it to me, we'll draft it, and it, you know, goes in the paper, and you get press, et cetera. So, I just kinda wanted an idea of who might wanna attend the event, so I can get an idea of cost, for tickets. And, he's probably gonna buy a table, and if he has leftover tickets, we could probably, you know, share a table together, but, I needed to know how many people might wanna attend,
I'd like to attend.
okay?
I think it'd be a good thing to go to.
Sounds like fun.
If Lori's driving, I'm in.
If Lori's driving,
We can actually do something enjoyable together?
You might wanna reconsider, Floyd.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, she's got a new car.
Yeah.
He had a new car.
That's right.
Yeah.
When is the award?
March
26th.
26th,
Okay,
6 to
so
9,
next
Tuesday or
at Crest Hill,
Wednesday?
yes, after our next board meeting, right?
That would be a Tuesday?
Tuesday?
Yes. Tuesday.
Yes,
And you know that I'm going, so.
okay.
No, thank
Well, you have to go.
Dick,
Yeah.
you kidding me?
you. I'll think about it.
Okay.
Put me on the maybe list.
Okay, so then I can get an idea. I mean, there are, you know, if the board is so inclined, there's a cost for an entire table.
Mhm.
That's, I guess, less than ticket prices. I didn't actually add it, I'm assuming. You buy a table of
$49
10, you actually get a table of 11.
Same price. Well, you get a table of 11. Well, one of our things is, can we fill it, or we just,
Remember table
money?
Yeah.
Huh?
There's a high chair.
If you're paying, you can fill it.
Well, that's true.
So, the first thing is,
What's
wait,
this?
the first invitation is an invitation to us?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, and if we're looking to put
Working on it.
funds to this parking lot situation, I mean, do we have the money?
So we do have a board meeting right before I can ratify a resolution if we, you know, decide how many people, the costs. We can do that on the
All right,
25th.
Up to you guys.
Okay, that's perfect.
I'm good.
All right,
Yeah, sounds great.
okay.
So the only thing we haven't done is decide, are we just paying for the people count?
Individuals, right,
Or are we gonna,
buy a
get a table.
table, okay.
you need to know that by when? Around here somewhere.
I think actually the 14th, I have to let them know. They wanna know sooner rather than later, but
Or what's likely to change from tonight is, in our decision?
number of people.
Number of people and so the ultimate
So
cost.
we'll work on filling the table, if we were going to take it.
Yeah, and the table was, do you have the?
I do.
I had.
It's 149 to see.
1490.
Jim, you
Yeah,
in?
so there's a table of 10 and a quarter
I-
page ad for
yeah.
2,300. There's a table of 10 for 1,400. And she said if we get a table of 10, they throw in an extra ticket, so it's actually 11.
So you need somebody skinny.
I can bring my scene.
That's what I'm good for. Now I know.
You'll
what
get a
I'm
little
good for.
crowded at table 11.
Maybe I'll discuss with the
service
chairman
dog.
who to invite.
My
if we
service
Go
dog,
with
yeah.
the table.
Yeah, well, I
Take
got
10 in
a
a
great
bowl.
idea right here.
Okay, yeah.
Well, the town,
Well, I don't know if we could fit them all, but certain.
Hey, put on a good lunch there, I go there, well, I go to the Visual Island once, and it's, they put on nice.
Well,
Is
this
that
is-
also at
this-
Crest Hollow?
This is a dinner, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
I can tell you, I've eaten so many times at Crest Hollow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, the Visual
I
Island.
can tell you what they're gonna have
It'd
for
be
us.
nice if the
Being-
town board
having to
and
be
Dick
there for
came, that's
breakfast
11
meeting.
right there.
I know.
Oh, wait, Tony. Forgot
That's why
about
I'm glad
Tony's.
you go, most of the
So
time.
you have enough information out of one?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and really, the only other thing is, the office is not exactly on schedule where I'd like to be with the compliance reporting due to all the stuff that's been going on. It's put me a little behind my own personal schedule. We're certainly not going to be late if I have anything to do about it, but it does mean that that wonderful March 25th date that we put in the event we needed it, I will need it, for a board meeting. So it would be March 25th and then another one the following week if necessary.
Well, it's important to make all of our, commitments.
So you're gonna have
Play,
s-
play the rules, play by the rules and by the time. this is extremely important, the welfare of this town. And what you've been doing is okay with me, and I think I can speak for everybody. And we'll always, as we always have, do our darndest to make sure that we're in compliance. And I'm sure we can do that.
Okay.
So just keep me informed.
So we,
Well,
as
keep
of
it
right
open.
now, we are still on for the first Monday in April
We
as
are,
well,
right.
unless something
And
changes.
it is
So you're
not a
gonna have a spe-
special,
Well,
it is not a special meeting, because it was
It
noticed.
is on the schedule.
We put it on the.
He puts on your annual, your
Yes.
published
Yeah.
schedule?
Yep,
April Fool's Day?
anticipating this, Tom and I said, let's just put it in,
Mm.
just in case, and as opposed to calling a special like we have had.
But you will have it on your website
It's-
as.
it's been
but-
up.
It's
But I mean,
already
you,
repeatable.
you'll put an agenda up just like you normally would
Yeah.
for the regular meeting.
Yeah.
Right, right. Gotcha, okay.
Okay.
What else you got?
Anything else?
That is all.
Okay. Anything else? All right,
Good
we're
meeting.
going to adjourn this,
I'll make a
I need a
motion to
motion.
adjourn.
second.
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, it's,
At 5:58.
we
I
get
like it when
somebody-
you do the same people all through, because then I can just copy and paste.